Surprise! Happy Thursday, Bears fans, and welcome back to the CHGO Bears Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. And what's going on, everybody? Will DeWitt, Nicholas Moreano here, and on top of celebrating opening day, go Sox. Nick, how's it going, man? I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think we threw people in for a loop here. I had Gary, he direct messaged me saying, wait, is there going to be a show today? I see Mark's on here. I'm like, I didn't reply. Boom, we're doing the CHGO Chicago Audible Throwback Thursday for you guys. So it's always a good time, fun time. And like you said, opening day for baseball.
And it's like a regular season episode for us. Well, Thursday. When did we do Thursdays? It's been Friday for a while. Was it Thursday last off season? Is that what I'm thinking of?
I think it was. Yeah, I think that sounds right. I was like going back and trying to remember. It's crazy that you bring this up, Will, because I was trying to go back when we were during the season. I'm like, when was I even on the show? Like, I just couldn't even remember. It feels like it's so long ago, but we're gonna get in that routine in a couple months again. So yeah, it's reflecting back. It's like we'll see what this season looks like.
And on top of that, Thursday historically has been like podcast day for us. So obviously we used to do it at night. This is smack dab in the middle, actually at the top of the afternoon. But regardless, I'm excited to be with you, talk some Chicago Bears. And I think we're going to have a really good discussion here today because we're going to determine what's the right move. If the Bears stay at 9, should they go offense? Should they go defense? Is there a right and a wrong answer? And then, of course, we're going to look at some trade down scenarios because Ryan Polsey's open to shopping that pick too. So what could the Bears get in return if they move down yet again? I crunched some numbers, looked at some historical trends, and I'm excited to share those too. But anything else before we get started? Anything new with you? My baby still a little sick. It's been a little bit of a long week over here at home. I kind of hear him griping right now, which is making me a little sad, but he can handle an hour so I can talk some Bears with you. But anything else new, Nick?
Nothing new, Will. Hope Liam does all right, is getting a little bit better, but it's been a busy week here, and it's always fun to get to this episode a day sooner than usually scheduled, but I'm ready to go because we kind of put this together last minute, but I'm glad how this rundown turned out because I think we have some really good topics to discuss.
Don't tell them that. We've been preparing all week. I know you've been like doing show after show after show all week, but regardless, you put a special focus on it when it's just you and me.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Every single time, Will.
All right. So first topic of the afternoon. If the Bears remain at number 9, what is the right move? Is there a right move, offense or defense? I feel like this is a very old school Will, simple question, complicated answer time. So here we go. That's a very simple question. Before we get into the nitty gritty, is there a right or a wrong move in your eyes?
I think there is, Will. I think there is a right move for Ryan Poles if he is strictly staying at number 9. How about you? What are you kind of feeling on this very, like you said, simple question, but big, huge, I guess, way you can go about thinking about it?
Man, based off of what the boards look like now, potentially a right and a wrong answer. I'm not going to dive totally in and say for certain because the board can fall in so many different ways once you get to the actual draft. And let's start the conversation this way. So what I did is I went to the PFF big board. I went to the Draft Network big board and the consensus big board that I've been kind of toying with this year, because what I like about the consensus big board is it uses all the mock drafts. So instead of just a list of talent, it's a list of like where guys are being mocked to go. So it does change things a little bit here. So PFF, you have Devon Witherspoon, cornerback, Tyree Wilson at 8, edge, Quentin Johnston, 9, which I thought was still a little high. They should probably change that board. Christian Gonzalez, corner, JSN, receiver, and then Peter Skoronski, offensive tackle. So it's kind of like an even mix right there. And if you want to go to the Draft Network big board right now, you have number 7, Miles Murphy, 8, Christian Gonzalez, 9, Quentin Johnston again, 10, Tyree Wilson, 11, Brian Breesy, 12, Broderick Jones, offensive tackle. So again, a kind of a even mix here. Then at the consensus big board, this one, some quarterbacks kind of jump up and change some things. You have Tyree Wilson at 7, Witherspoon at 8, Paris Johnson Jr. at 9, Will Levis is sitting there at 10, And then Robinson, the running back out of Texas at 11. And then Joey Porter Jr., cornerback out of Penn State. So a little bit more defensive heavy. I think I've just barely. It's like a 60-40 split of having more defenders than offensive players. But I don't think that's the only factor. What are some other factors that you were keeping in mind as you were kind of thinking this through?
For me, I mean, when I'm looking like whether or not it's like there is a right or wrong answer and how Ryan Poles can approach this, every way I think about it always goes back to the quarterback, Justin Fields, and why 2023 is such an important season for this organization. Now that they have made the decision to move on from number 1 to be at number 9, like this is his year to shine, right? You get the number 1 wide receiver. So a lot of my thinking was oriented around how can you best put him in a position to succeed? So that's kind of what my framework was like when I was thinking about, the right prospects. And to what you just said, Will, there seems to be a little bit more of those defensive players that are in that realm that, maybe again, there could be more in the mid rounds too, as well. So where you can still select an impact defensive player, but that's how I'm kind of thinking about this 2023 season, how Ryan Poles going to approach this, what's going to be in the best interest of your QB1, your franchise quarterback.
I mean, he got him DJ Moore already. I'm not saying you can't have too much talent. You can't help Justin too much. I'm not saying that, but I do want to preface, like, he got him a wide receiver 1 this offseason. Yeah. He did the damn thing.
And so, Claypool, like, if you even look at that, like, acquisition too, like trying to give him some assets to work with.
But he needs protection. I think that's still the elephant in the room right now is to continue to bolster that offensive line. And we have, we brought in Davis in free agency. There have been moves made, but not enough to get you feeling comfortable. And if we're not comfortable, how the hell is Justin supposed to be comfortable actually sitting back there in that pocket? So here's another thing I decided to do here throughout this thought process this morning. Let's look at the depth of the positions in the draft. And I'm not a draft expert to that degree to just know this. So I looked up what Lance Zierlein from NFL.com and what he believes is the order of positions from strongest to weakest in this year's draft. And that's a mixture of blue chip players, potential starting caliber players, and then just overall depth here throughout the entirety of the draft. So the deepest / strongest position, corner. And then you have tight end, edge, wide receiver, quarterback, interior defensive lineman, interior offensive lineman, offensive tackle, running back, safety, linebacker. That's kind of how it goes. So what I see right away is like, you don't have to wait for a corner. Like you can wait on a corner. You don't have to draft one round 1. It's a deep class. Edge is up there too for its depth in this class. So if you don't go 9 at edge, you can find other players later. And we've talked about that on the show. But what really stuck out to me was 4th from the bottom, offensive tackle. And that's a big one. And when you look at like premier positions in the league, right, it goes quarterbacks, pass rushers, offensive tackles are like your top 3 premium positions right now. And it's left tackle more so than right, but still like offensive tackle in general is up there. So that makes, a pretty compelling case why offensive tackle in round 1 would make a lot of sense here for the Bears. And one side note, linebacker being in the very bottom, being the weakest position in this draft class makes me believe the Bears saw that too with all the money they spent in free agency with Edwards and Edmonds.
No, exactly. Well, and like when you were mentioning every position, like, offensive tackle's not getting mentioned. Oh, there it is, 4th from the bottom, but also interior defensive lineman, right? It was another one kind of towards the bottom there as you're looking at how Ryan Poles can approach, the number 9th pick or trading back. So that's why going back to our question, is there a right or wrong answer? I said, yes, there is a right answer. There's also a wrong answer. And I'll go ahead and say this. I know on this podcast, as of late, we've been talking a lot about Bijan Robinson. The wrong answer is drafting a running back at number 9. I'm sorry that Bijan Robinson. Look, he is awesome. I mean, he is a great prospect, and he will make any team he goes on a lot better. But for the Bears at number 9, I cannot. That would be the wrong answer for this Bears organization. Yes, the offense does get better with him, but I'm not doing that. And the right answer would be to still, I think, draft an offensive player that is not Bijan Robinson.
See, I just get butthurt because I remember the Bears drafting a running back out of Texas as a top 5 pick. This is still a top 10 pick. And it kind of worked for a bit, but it definitely didn't have the overall impact that you would expect from investing in the position. And there's a reason why you don't see teams drafting running backs, in the top 10 anymore. The dime a dozen rings a bell. That comes to mind pretty quickly. I don't know if Robinson, he could be like one of those exceptions to the rules when it comes to that. But like you said, it's a tough one because I can see, and I'm not saying at 9 specifically, but I can see why having a talent like Robinson could be theoretically, not really theoretically, but in a way helping Justin Fields too by having an additional playmaker in the backfield, someone else who can be a reliable receiver in the passing game. And then, of course, you can look at the contract and it wouldn't be all too bad, but there's other positions that are bigger needs. And I think there's a reason why the Bears brought in multiple running backs already in free agency. Another reason why you probably don't invest, a number 9 overall pick. But as of right now, I would say the right answer, unless someone falls to you, and I think that's a big preface. Like if there's a guy who you thought was going to go top 5 and somehow he falls in your lap at 9, go get him. Whether that's, Tyree Wilson's always like that big name. Paris Johnson Jr. still right there too. Like he's borderline 9. He can go sooner. He can go a little bit later. But yeah, I think offensive tackle is like the easy one. Yeah. But it goes back to best player available or drafting for need. And that's a very delicate, fine line that you have to kind of walk to.
It is. And that's why, I don't want to be in Ryan Poles' position right now because it's a tough one to make. And especially given all the needs that this current roster has. But another guy that, who I took in the first mock draft that we did, which was last Friday, Kalijah Kancey. Now, if you were to move back a little bit, that would be a guy that you would maybe consider a little bit more. But yeah, 9 for me. I kept coming to addressing the offensive tackle position. Will, and one of those guys I think will be there if you're looking between Peter Skoronski, Paris Johnson Jr., Broderick Jones. So for me, I think that's the move. And I wonder where those guys rank in Ryan Poles' big board. And if it's one of those, 6 to 7 blue chippers that fall to him and you're addressing the tackle position, that's something that, benefits the run game. It benefits Justin Fields. It benefits your wide receivers. It does make the entire offense better. And it does happen to address a position of need. So, and where Ryan Poles looks at positional value and obviously the player and what they bring, not only on the field, but off the field, like a guy like Paris Johnson Jr. is going to hit every single mark in terms of the off the field stuff because of the person that he is, just how he carries himself. And also he's a hell of a football player. So for me, and that's why I think even if you look at DraftKings, it's offensive lineman is the top, number 1 choice for the Bears to draft. And I agree with it.
They're going to take so much money away from people putting their hard-earned dollars on that because the NFL draft always tends to surprise. It's not nearly as clear-cut as we expect it to be every single year. I had a question, and I'm upset because it started to escape me as you were talking, but I was just looking at people who are available. So wait, I wanted to make sure I want to get this on record. That was one. I want to hear that Lucas Van Ness at 9 would be a wrong answer. I want to hear it from you. That would be a wrong answer at 9.
I don't know okay. Look, I want him to go offense at 9. So Lucas Van Ness obviously being a defensive player, but we also have a topic coming up later. If he were to fall into middle, or we'll talk about it, but he could be a right answer for the Bears is what I'm going to tell you right now, Will. But at 9, because of me wanting to address the offense to give Justin Fields the weapon or just the protection that he needs, it is the wrong answer. But there is a way where it's the right answer. So take that, Gary. I know you're in the chat here giving crap about Lucas Van Ness, so we'll get to it.
All right. So if, just say you're looking at positions, we don't have to talk players, and you're sitting there at 9, you would say offensive tackle is number 1. What's number 2 right now? Because what happens if there's a mini run on tackles? For some reason, that becomes a thing where 6, 7, 8, it's not going to play this way. I'm just a hypothetical. All 3 are tackles that you like, or even if you only like 2 of them, gone off the board. Is edge next?
Yeah, for me, edge or interior defensive lineman, but now here comes a discussion if Jalen Carter's there at 9. And that's, the character just doesn't fit what the Bears want to do, but hell of a football player. But it would be edge for me, being that second. Like, again, all 3 tackles need to be gone, for this scenario to kind of play out for me. And then, hey, now you remember I was just talking about Lucas Van Ness being an option almost there? Maybe. But that would also be, and then, some of the cornerbacks, there's Witherspoon and Gonzalez, so it would also be really interesting. Because as you think of, like, the whole roster, like, the main, like, holes that you have, tackle, interior defensive lineman, 3 tech, edge, and then probably corner, right? Like, that would be the 4th one on that list. Or, I mean, would you put it any differently? You could always add another wide receiver, but that
if we go off my mock draft last week, wide receiver.
Yeah, still up there.
Have you ever complained, Nick, about the Bears having too many good wide receivers?
Nope.
Never been a problem, right?
Never been a problem.
I don't even think I've gotten close to thinking, like, other than Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall. And this is like a duo. That's not even a complete room, but like, wow, we're loaded at the position. Way to go, Bears. Like, outside of like that 2-year span of my life, I've never been like blown away by the Bears wide receiver room. So if they want to go ahead and just go crazy and add a round 1 talent to go with DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney and Claypool, you're not going to see me complain one bit, like, at all. And something I did want to say, and finally it clicked, is I just wanted to give some kudos to Ryan Poles for allowing us to have this conversation a month before the draft. Because if you look back just a month ago when we were at the NFL Combine, there was a consensus the Bears maybe move down a few spots. They're going to go defense, whether it be an edge or an interior defensive lineman. And now the Bears are in a position where we're having a talk like, where should they go? We're like offense, defense, edge, corner, tackle, receiver. Like, options are open. And we haven't even gotten to the second half of this conversation about what happens if they trade back again. So I think it's a testament and good proof that Ryan Poles is really rebuilding this team in the right way and setting things up to allow his options to be open. I didn't even mention like what he did in free agency. Like, you don't have to worry about linebacker now. You don't have to worry about maybe a guard right now, at least early on. And I wouldn't have drafted one in the first round anyway. But I just wanted to like, showcase or just bring up the fact that I appreciate us being in a position to have these talks, because a month ago, I never thought it was going to be like possible.
No, definitely. And we, during our happy hour, we kind of asked like the group, like, how are you feeling about Ryan Poles and like the confidence you have in him? And it was pretty much a consensus where people are feeling good about, one, the decisions he's making, kind of the presence that he's also, I guess, displaying when he's out, because he seems confident from obviously, year 1 in this job and all the different things that he has to deal with being a first-time general manager to where he's at now. There is kind of like a sense of confidence that he exudes to not only maybe people who are tuning in, watching his press conference or seeing the social media clips or whatever it may be, but he's got a plan in place. And that is, I think, is comforting for not only us Bears fans and the direction ultimately where this football team will go.
I saw the Blazing game comment about I have a Shane McClellan signed helmet, and I just wanted to top him by specifying that in my garage, literally like 15 feet in that direction from me, Nick, I still have my Kevin White signed helmet that I got, which I still believe that helmet would be worth more without the autograph than the actual autograph on it.
Yeah, you're probably right. Oh man. What is it with Kevin? So you have that. I know Mark Carman has a Kevin White picture. I don't think I have anything Kevin White, but I may be wrong somewhere. It's just interesting.
Hey, I was at a fundraiser for Riley's Children's Hospital in Indianapolis, and they had a Kevin White helmet. And I think it was like soon after he got drafted. He didn't play down. One of his few downs that he've ever played.
You guys talking about Kevin White?
Steven,
look at that, Steven. Wow.
There's a lot of Kevin White at CHGO for some reason, but
tough jersey pick, but I do own it.
There we go.
there we go.
You own it. Person on the list.
Don't wear it. I actually got back, speaking of random jerseys, my Brady Quinn Cleveland Browns jersey, because I grew up a big Notre Dame football guy. Loved Brady Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
By the Browns, I'm like, he's going to turn around that franchise and be a staple in this league. Bought it on eBay. I was only like middle school, and I was like my hard-earned allowance money. Bought it on eBay, had it all stitched up. It was nice. And then I lost it, but my brother found it, and I got that back like a month ago. And it was kind of cool to have, kind of sad to remember, but kind of
conviction.
cool.
Well, that's what I hear from, that story that you just told. The conviction, you had it, you did it, went to eBay, bought that jersey. And, I blame it on the Browns. It was they're still an organization that's makes questionable decisions at the quarterback position. So,
I had conviction. I also bought a fat head that preseason.
Fat heads, yeah. I always wanted a fat head growing up, and that sounds so weird to say. Like, if you don't know what a fat head, like the image thing, it's just a fat head. But I never got one. But you had a Brady cool one. That's pretty cool.
I put it on my wall, and I'm not like the most like. How do I want to say it? Like, I don't say artsy because it's not art. You're just putting a laminate on the wall, but I'm not good at those things. And like his waistline and his belly kind of like was off. It was a little tilted, but the fun fact, and then I'll put in a Bears tie and then we'll move on, is that the picture they used for that fat head was the Bears Browns, like the regular preseason finale that we used to do in week 4 every year, the preseason between the two teams. It was taken there. I remember that.
Wow. Look at that.
Right.
Nice.
Small tie-in.
Yep.
All right. Before we get into the second half of this conversation, and we're going to talk about possibilities of trading down from 9, what that looks like from a compensation standpoint, and whether it would be worth it for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears. We just have a couple messages that we want to share with you. And I have to tell you about Fubo TV, which I'm very excited that we have here on CHGO. I mean, there's so much to love about him. You have over 140 live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news. You can stream live TV literally from any device. You can watch the most Chicago sports for the lowest price. So if you're, cost conscious, this is a great deal for you. And you can start watching immediately right now with a 7-day free trial. No contract, no cable, not even a bit of a hassle. Cut the cable, cut the cord, and just sign up and start watching thousands of hours of clouded DVR. Is also included at no extra charge. And right now, I just wanted to make sure, you can watch some college hockey, the NCAA tournament on ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPNU, and the Frozen Four from April 6th to the 8th. And right now, you can watch the Chicago White Sox on NBC Sports Chicago with Fubo TV. Use the link in the description to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro.
Fubo, go check it out. Definitely use it. A lot of great benefits that Will just mentioned, but you also got to check out FOCO. Chicago, you've already got the best coverage for your favorite teams. So get fitted on the best sports gear around. FOCO's got you covered from Soldier Field to the front room, north or south side, with hoodies, slippers, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. Get decked out like DeMar with apparel from the leader in sports merch and collectibles, FOCO. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for the football fan in your life, FOCO's got you covered with hoodies to fight that Lake Michigan breeze. Check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description below for all non-presale items. Use a promo code CHGO for 10% off.
All right. This is the CHGO Bears Podcast. Will DeWitt, Nicholas Moreano, and we are excited because we're talking Bears draft, and we have a whole month to go, and we can't get enough of it. So, as I mentioned before the break, what would a trade package look like for the Bears if they trade down again from number 9? And Nick, I know you've been crunching all the numbers all morning, and you're ready to rock and roll here, right? You have a good idea?
No, that's why I have you here, Will. I was trying to look at stuff, and then I'm like, man, Will's gonna have such a much better answer than I will. But I was kind of looking at, again, some of the teams that they could potentially trade with, and then I figured I'd just throw it over to you.
I like it. Actually, this is going to be great teamwork, because if you have a better or a stronger understanding today about what those potential trade partners are, then I can use that as a segue of well, this is roughly what it could look like. Give me a team, give me their overall pick, and then I'll give you some data. Watch out.
Okay. I like that. Do we want to start at the top where we just having our rundown here and then kind of go from there, or?
That's up to you, because I know we're just going technically 11 through 19th. So we can just pick even when we break it down to thirds, right? 11 to 13, 14 to 16, and something like that.
Let's
just
start
some ballparks. just some ballpark. So it's hard because not a lot of teams actually trade out of the top 10. Weirdly enough, you don't see a lot of it, but based off of what I was able to find for like, say the Bears go from 9 down to like, that 11 to 12 range. So only move down a few picks. I saw from that, if you go back to 2021, an interdivision trade, which is pretty rare, unless you're the Vikings last year who was trading with everybody. Packers, you want to pick? Lions, you want to move up? But the Cowboys traded from 10 to 12 with the Eagles. So they moved down from 10 down to 12. Oh, yeah. And they only got in return, this is what really surprised me, round 3, pick 84. Yeah, and in addition to that, for other first rounder, right? So you move down 2 spots, and then the only other compensation would be a third round pick.
And that's where they got the wide receiver, right? Down, would that be Smith?
I
believe so. Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay. Let's kind of keep going here because that's nice. You get another third rounder, like you said, but I wonder if we could do a little bit better for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears. We had the 9th overall pick. One of these quarterbacks has fallen. And I think, with maybe, let's say it's Will Levis or something like that, all the intangibles, physical attributes, someone wants to go get him. Will, where can we maybe get better draft compensation?
Well, obviously, it's a pretty simple, I'm going to say formula. Well, it's not really a formula, but the further down you go, the more you'll probably get back in return. So last year, the Saints had number 11, and they traded down to 16th. Okay. And on top of that 16th pick, they got round 3, pick 98, and round 4, pick 120. Is that worth 5 spots right now in your eyes? Obviously, when we're talking about all these potential guys sitting there at 9, there was a lot of players at a lot of positions. So again, keeps options open, but 5 spots to get a third and a fourth.
You know what? I think, again, we could maybe do a little bit better than that. So, I do like that you're getting the picks this year. Again, I think there's a good group of players that you can get within that round, but I would love to go get something, I don't know, the 40s, 50 range in that second round there, Will, that can really help out.
Here's the thing. And again, this is what we can use this for the conversation point. It doesn't have to be a straight first and give me something extra. You can give, hey, here's our first, here's one of our seconds, or maybe here's a first and here's like our third. Like there's something you can add on extra picks too to like really make it worth your while if that's how you kind of want to navigate the board. So that's another interesting possibility for the Bears. But if we're just looking at straight what swap first and give me what you got. You really almost have to look like at the 20th range before a compensation gets really exciting. And having a quarterback to trade up for, I think helps because teams will navigate that with like a sense of urgency. If they have oh my gosh, like this guy's in our grasp. We can't let the other team jump us for this QB. Like we want him. He can be our guy. Like if they have that sort of conviction, they'll be willing to give you a little bit more. And I think the Bears actually are a prime example of that when you go back to when they drafted Justin Fields and traded up because the Bears had number 20 that year and they traded all the way up to number 11 to get Justin Fields. So the Giants got, thank you, Ryan Pace. So maybe, we can, talk about him, just letting picks go so willy-nilly. But the Giants, they dropped from 11, they go down to 20. And then they also got around 5, pick 164 that year, which is But then the extra ticker, which was a first rounder the following year and a fourth rounder, which if the Bears did something similar, which I've seen like Tampa Bay brought up, I've seen Washington brought up, if they do something similar, they can then walk into next year's draft with 3 first round picks. Would you go down to like, let's just use 20 as a ballpark number. Would you drop from 9 to 20 if that meant you're walking into the 2024 NFL draft with 3 firsts in your pocket?
Man, well, that would be so enticing if you are Ryan Poles and you had that type of ammo going into 2024. And I think like there are still some players that I like in that again, however the board falls, maybe this player is there, maybe that player is not, but let's say it's 19. to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They don't have a franchise quarterback. They love what they see in Will Levis, and make a similar trade compensation package where you do get like that first round pick for in 2024. I think I would do it, Will. I think I would trade back to 19 if that's what you're getting in return. I wonder how the chat feels about that too. Like, definitely mention what your thoughts would be. Would you trade the 9th pick, move down 10 spots to 19 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but you at least know you're going to get a first rounder in 2024? Are you making that trade? Are you doing that? I'm curious. I think I am. Well, what about you?
Right now, I lean yes because of what we talked. I'm not going to contradict myself. We talked about the top. Like, we have flexibility, and you can move around the draft board. You can find talent at 20. May not be the same level that we're expecting at 9, but the drop off shouldn't be drastic. And you have so many different needs where if the board falls and favors one position, then you can just go attack the other and move on. And who are we to get so picky all of a sudden? How many years do we not have a first round pick? Like, let's just have one this year. Who cares if it's at 19, still top 20 pick. And then, next year you have 3. And I've talked about it on the show before where that's more than just a player, like a pick. You can use those to navigate the board more. Like if they want to get Marvin Harrison Jr. next year, and obviously he's going to go pretty high up. You have 3 picks. Maybe one of them will fall into that category. And if not, you have multiple picks to move yourself up. It's an amazing
absolutely.
Power move.
It is. And look, I don't want to. Okay, so if you have 3 first rounders next year, Will, and you gave Justin Fields everything you thought he needed to show you what you wanted to see, and he didn't, you have like that flexibility now to go and get the quarterback that you would ultimately want. Not saying I would hate for that scenario to play out. I love Justin Fields. I love what he's doing. I want him to succeed and just ball out in 2023. But that's also another thing that would give, Ryan Poles flexibility for next year. But yeah, it's just that would be also, I don't know if the Bears have ever had anything close to that for, ever since I've been following. But yeah, that would be unprecedented territory for the Bears. And imagine all the options that Ryan Poles can do with something, with the power, like you said, like that.
He's playing 4D chess. So I believe he could be thinking 10 steps ahead there, where he's like, well, I would like this player, but if we hold off for now and then next year, and again, and I've talked about this too, and I just want to reiterate it quickly, you can keep punting those picks. If say you roll in with 3 next year and you just use 1, maybe use 2, and you have a top 10 pick and then you have 2 in the teens. What if you trade that top 10 pick and have 2 the following year? To 2025, you have 2, but then you have 2 this year. So you have 2 and then 2, which helps spread some of those contracts out as well. It just really would help the Bears for year after year. Just know you're in a premium spot in the draft with the ability to do whatever the hell you pleased. And that kind of flexibility, I think, would really empower Poles to make the moves necessary to take this team to the next level and help them have sustained success. You're not just loading up for 1 year. You're having picks in place where you can move on from some of those veterans. You don't have to buy in all those bigger contracts. Man, there's just so many benefits of it. I get kind of giddy. As much as it's weird to say, I don't need a top 10 pick right now. We can move on from that. But just thinking about the possibilities, and it's you have a player, or you can have I'm not saying endless possibilities, but so many other options out there, whether it be this year in the draft, next year in the draft, and maybe even a year after.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Poles is big on sustained success, and you're going to do that if you have a lot of high draft picks. You're drafting well, but ultimately, Ryan Poles, this Bears organization, they're going to have to make a pick, right? They're going to have to select. So let's say they do this trade back scenario at 9, and let's go from the 15 to the 19 range. I know we have a couple players that we kind of jotted down that we would like in that range, and I'll kind of just start things off here. If you are not picking at 9, like I said, you do the trade back. I was seeing that a guy like Zay Flowers was kind of in that range. I know that's a lot of people that we've talked about him a lot on this podcast. I know a lot of Bears fans know about him, but if you were to select him, maybe 15 through 20, wherever the Bears might land, that's one of those scenarios like we were just talking about. Like, you can never give Justin Fields enough weapons. That's just another one to add with DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, that I think would just elevate this passing offense. And again, put Justin Fields in the best position to ball out in 2023. But that's just one of the players that, again, an offensive guy that can go out there and make immediate impact and, really elevate this passing offense.
I mean, you can look at a couple tackles. If we're moving down to like the low teens, mid teens, Broderick Jones out of Georgia is someone who I really like. His athleticism just kind of like jumps off at you when you're watching him on film. He's not super polished. He's only had 19 games, which not like a concern, but you have to really trust your gut on this player and what you saw on film. But he has all those traits that you're looking for. He has the size, he has the length, he has, like I say, super athletic. He can move in space. He hunts those second and third level defenders. Now, is he a left tackle? That's where he's played in college. Can he move him to right? How does that kind of shake things up? But I love this quote from him. He was on Good Morning Football the other day, and he said, and I quote, "I'm such a hard worker. I'm going to come in and give you my all. You'll never see me slacking off. I always do my best. Football is what I love to do. I breathe football. It's all I'll ever want to do." That's a Flus kind of guy.
Yep, exactly. If you live and breathe football, you are in the Flus territory there, for sure. No, I love that. But he will, when he gets to the second level, like, he's not blocking people. He is absolutely destroying people. Like, it's nuts watching him go out there, be so physical. And again, he's still, I don't know if raw is the right word, but he does need more experience at the position.
He's not
right?
super polished. How about that?
Yeah, he's not super polished, but he might have the most upside out of the three tackles, Paris Johnson Jr., Pierce Skoronski, and himself. Because if that guy gets it all down, that becoming more of a technician like a Pierce Skoronski, watch out, because that guy has all the intangibles to be a really great player.
And if the Bears do say go down like that 20th range, that still gets you in contention for some tackles like Darnell Wright out of Tennessee. Another one, Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma. And then you mentioned Flowers, so I'd be remiss if I didn't say, well, Jordan Addison can still be sitting around that time too, if we're looking at receiver still.
Yeah, and maybe not at 20. Well, actually, I've seen Kalijah Cansey go at 19 to I think that's Detroit, or no, that would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But those middle rounds too, if you want to address interior defensive line, that's where a guy, ideally, you'd want to take him. Not at 9 like I did in my last mock draft, but that's another that's another guy where when Will was saying all the positions from strength to weak, the strongest to the weakest, like, tier defensive lineman was down there, unfortunately. So he's a bit undersized, but man, like, he's one of those technician kind of guys, works quick off the line of scrimmage, master with his hand, kung fu master with his hands in terms of just getting people off of him. So that'd be another impact player that you can get later on or in that midsection of the first round.
I see. Where is the Darnell Wright hype coming from? I didn't know I was bringing hype. I don't know if there's other hype I'm just unaware of right now, but I'm just
really,
throwing
Zachary,
names.
I like Darnell Wright. I think he can be a really good player at the next level.
He's pretty solid. Obviously he's not like one of those tackles that we're talking about going in the top 10, and we talk about the quality of that position. And you mentioned it, like that was near the bottom. It was like third to last. So if they trade down in round 1 and can still get a tackle and feel pretty confident that they can develop into a long-term starter for this team, almost like a win-win, where you get those extra picks back, you get a long-term starting caliber player at a position of need. Like, that's not a bad, like, that would not be a bad day of the office, the first night of the NFL draft for the Bears, if it kind of shook out that way.
No, it definitely would. I think it would be an ideal scenario for the Bears, but like, I don't know why randomly throughout a day, let's kind of think about it. Like, man, what the hell is he going to do at 9? Man, who's he going to trade back to? Who are the players that he's going to possibly take? And so many different scenarios. And we're giving you some of them here. And when it comes draft day, and the first night of the draft, could do something completely different. And, again, the options and the players and how this big board falls for Ryan Poles ultimately dictate what he does. And that's what's so fascinating about being at number 9 and not at number 1, like you were saying earlier. you trade it back. We can talk about it. We have about a month now to do so before something actually happens with the picks that he does have.
All right. So as of today, just as of the board, when you're looking at, say, what would you rather have? Would you rather have the 9th overall pick? And I'm trying to make it like where it's here. I'll just go this way. 9th overall pick, and you can get, I'm not going to say like the top player you wanted, but there's a player there that grades right where you can draft them there at 9. You're feeling good about it. Or if that offer comes through the phone and you're like, hey, you want another first next year, and just move down to like 19 or 20, and you're just looking at the board, like what would you do in that position as of today? And I know I saw Rob, it was about 5 minutes ago, his comment, and we put on the screens, like you really can't decide that now. It will depend on how the board falls. And I totally agree. That's why I'm prefacing like this scenario here. But what would you do if you had that someone in your hand right now that you feel good about drafting at 9, or the potential of moving down and accumulating those extra picks?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting. I think we all want instant gratification, right? Like, or that, instantaneous, whatever it may be that you're seeking, and you want it now. And I get that's what you would get at 9. You get your player, and then you don't have to wait for 2024 to see what that first round pick could be. I was also thinking of the scenario, Will, like, again, it's a little murky if we do it, but if you trade out of 9 and you get, I don't know, in that 45 to 53 range, that like the Bears have the 53rd pick, so maybe that 30 to 40 range, another second round pick. That was also pretty enticing to me. But right now, I'd be really open to trading back from 9. And if you do get that, future first round pick, perfect. But I'm also looking at, can you trade back maybe to 19 and also get somewhere where it's not such a large gap between what 9 was and 53. Something to bridge that middle, so we can also select another impact player there.
That's a really, really solid point. And I think the good news would be if you made a trade like this, and if we use the Bears Giants as the example, the Bears also gave the Giants around 5 in that same exact draft and around 4 the following year. And the Bears, as we know, like they're sitting on a couple of 5s, like they have like a fair amount of day 3 picks. So if you wanted to move back up in the second,
exactly.
Hey, we'll give you our number 50, whatever, and we can jump into the 30s, throw on a 4th, maybe a 4th and a 7th, like whatever it takes. I'm going to say whatever it takes. Let's be reasonable here, Will. But if you want to move back up, then you have the power to do so. And that's what, it kind of reiterates the point one more time, is like by having a stockpile of draft picks, it doesn't mean you're going to have huge rookie classes every year. But what it does mean is that if you want to move up, you have what it takes to get it done. And it's something the Bears, for what feels like my entire lifetime, has always been on the opposite end. We're always the team without the picks who can't do that. I always feel like I see the teams move around the board. I'm like, how is this team on the clock again? I don't understand it. Now I do. And hopefully the Bears can become one of those.
That would be such a turn of events, because like you said, that's usually never where the Bears are at. But they're starting to become a team, and hopefully this, again, is sustained throughout years where they are the guy. That's the team you want to be in the draft. You want to be able to move and do what you want, trade picks, but also get great, return on the picks that you do trade, or whatever it may be. Like, that's ideally what you want the Bears to. A well-oiled machine, a legit franchise, someone that you actually look up to, because that just has not been the state of their franchise as of late. And hopefully Ryan Poles, this current regime, is doing the right things. And I think we're seeing that to put them in a position to be that team. And, it's going to take good drafting and good process in this crucial part of the offseason to get that done.
Yeah, I really like this comment from A2. The J9, can't get impatient. It's a 3-year rebuild. Look long-term, not this year short-term. If we have a 0 chance at winning the Super Bowl, you put yourself in a better position to really compete in the near future. I mean, Nick, if you want to go back to the late teens, which is, man, I'm feeling old, but time goes by fast, really is what I was wanting to say there. But where the Bears were, and we kept using the word, like they're just average, like they're hanging around, and they weren't really going to compete. They weren't really going to contend, but they also at that point they weren't going to be a or a bottom 3 team in the league. They were just smack dab in the middle. It was like that land of mediocrity. And it was a frustrating position to be in. And the Bears have this opportunity to kind of like bust through that ceiling. I'm not going to say for good because the league fluctuates, but for this upcoming like run, they do have a chance to actually put themselves in a position to compete. Obviously, there's a lot of moves between now and then, but there's actually like a potential path forward instead of just being stuck in the mud.
And that's the worst, being stuck right in the middle, knowing going in, they don't have a chance of winning it. They also are not the worst team. They're just there. They show up. They're there. They're 8-8 when there's only 16 games. Now they're 9-8. Maybe they're whatever. But yeah, that's the absolute worst. And hopefully the Bears, and again, it changes year to year. Maybe they have a year like that moving forward as they're going on and winning the NFC North title and not giving the North back, like Ryan Poles said in his introductory press conference. But we'll let this is going to be an important draft to put them in a position to do that.
Here's another good comment from Sophisticated Thoughts.
Oh,
great name for a good comment. How about packaging maybe the late second round pick this year and next year's second to move up? And then just remembering the fact that if Ian Cunningham does go, we'll get some draft compensation to kind of balance that out, which allows the Bears to be a little bit more aggressive. That's a really good point. Man,
I forget what they get with the Ian Cunningham. Was it a third rounder? Like it was something.
It wasn't like a second, but I think it was like as soon as you can get comp picks, which I think's bottom of the third, then I think that's when it hit. But it's been like a month and a half, 2 months since we looked at it and talked about it.
Okay, let's see. Gary, I trust Gary. He says you get late third rounders if he leaves. Yeah, so that sounds about right. And that's Ian Cunningham staying with the Bears, not going to I thought he was like going to take the Arizona Cardinals position that was available, but obviously he's here in Chicago. 2 late thirds. Wow, that would be huge.
Talk about ammunition. Talk about rolling into with deep pockets, rolling into the draft next year. That would be tremendous. This comment from Chi-Town, it was just on the screen about the Chase Claypool trade. Kind of caught my eye. So they said Chase Claypool, that trade to the Steelers is looking worse by the day, having surrendered the valuable number 32 pick for a number 3 receiver. I think what we need to just kind of keep in mind when it comes to the Claypool trade is the timing of it, where you already knew like the free agency class coming up wasn't going to be a great one. You wanted to at least find someone to work with Justin that's better than what you already have in this roster. You don't know what's really coming through the pipeline in the draft. So I feel like it was a move to a necessary move to at least make sure you're doing something and attacking it. And if it doesn't pan out, we have other options. And when he made this trade, by no means necessary did Ryan Poles believe he was going to be able to land DJ Moore in a trade situation for his draft pick. I don't think that was even on his radar at that time. So using that, like obviously Claypool moving down to 3, damn, that sucks because it's number 32 pick. But also when you make the trade, you didn't expect to have a number 1 wideout like DJ Moore on your roster.
No, yeah. And look, he was doing it to also, you're trying to help out your quarterback too, give him another weapon at the time. And yes, it has not looked good for Chase Claypool. And, low expectations for him going into this season. Hopefully he exceeds those. And then you can at least have the talk about, a contract extension. At this point, like that's not what it ideally looks like it's going to happen. But if he has a good season, then maybe we can talk. But right now, low expectations going to 2023.
What if he balls out in the first half of the year and the Bears are like, we're going to trade him, and they flip him? It's like when you're flipping houses and then you flip him for another pick. And then you have your 3 first rounders in 2024. So you're going to do whatever it takes to get Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, hey, it's not over yet. Let's see how it all plays out. So we're going to get to our last messages of the day. And while we're doing that, if you have a Bears question and you want us to discuss it, I know I've seen a few kind of pop up throughout the show. Feel free to reiterate that question so it's a little bit more fresh in our chat. And of course, if you have a new question you haven't thrown out there, please do so. We have about 10 minutes or so that we can answer those Bears questions. But first, I want to tell you about Game Time, the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. Have you ever dreamed of sitting in a seat that you thought you never could? The 50-yard line, courtside, behind home plate, baseball season is here. Floor seats at a concert, it's all possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you thought you could never buy. And you won't find a better deal this season on the Cubs, or better yet, the White Sox. So definitely go check it out. And the Game Time was created by the fans, for the fans, something I really appreciate and resonate with. And they guarantee the lowest price. So if you love CHGO, you're going to love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description. That's here on YouTube and on your podcast player. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and scored the best seats to all your favorite events.
And as you guys know, the CHGO Bears offseason coverage is brought to you by ComEd Energy Efficiency Program. You can learn more at comed.com/poweringbiz. And the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, you guys, is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future. ComEd offers a wide array of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across their territories. And customers can inquire about how to upgrade outdated lighting to energy and money-saving efficient LED lights. You got to get in on the LED lights. It's good for the environment, good for you, good for everybody. And you can learn more about network lighting to operate your lights through your mobile device and track your facility's energy usage and more. Incentives have recently increased for indoor, outdoor lighting and network lighting controls, making these projects even more cost-effective than before. But what you have to do is visit comed.com/poweringbiz now to start saving money and energy. To start a project, all you got to do is contact them at 1-855-433-2700. And for more information, you can email businessee@comed.com or publicsectoree@comed.com. And Will, before we kind of get to our questions that we have lined up here, I know our guy Mark Carmen actually is at a bar right now. I believe is still at the Country Club Bar. And look what's on the TV over there at the Country Club Bar there in Chicago. It's a CHGO Bears podcast being just kind of watched there at the bar. So appreciate the support over there, and hopefully you're still watching the live show and supporting CHGO as they're kind of getting ready for opening day for the Cubs, White Sox, and baseball.
Why do I believe, if they're showing yesterday's episode, why do I believe, and Mark's there, that he requested the show to be on the screen? I don't know why. Something about it, a little fishy.
A little fishy. Hopefully, maybe it was an ad. I don't know. But yeah, hopefully they get the live one out there and just keep it on there the entire time. CHGO, that TV is just directly for CHGO.
Hey, that actually would be kind of cool to get a partnership like that kind of plays our show. We have so many episodes a day on this channel. Like you can you have a little playlist. You're good.
You're set.
You're good to go. I actually just saw a super chat pop up from Rob. He said, "Great show as always, Will." And he put my ones. I appreciate that, Rob. And Nick, hope the little one gets better. I appreciate it. It's been a rough week over here. I never knew that a infection can like a virus can give baby hives. I thought it was like allergies.
Oh no.
Learn something new this week, and Rob's on it. Go Sox.
Go Sox. Let's go.
But as I was just kind of like browsing here, I saw a good comment during the reads from Southwest Outlander, JE, about just our thoughts on George apparently being like reluctant for the Bears to be on Hard Knocks. Well, I'm just not surprised. Like, that's my thought.
No.
Like, it's not a surprise. They like to make their own little, the 1920 football drive. They like to control their narrative. They like to keep the national people like, pretty distant, pretty far away. And they believe they have an in-house team to kind of make similar content. As much as I would love for them to, totally take off the veil and get us that look, I'm not surprised. The Bears have been very, very tight knit, as we know from personal experience, navigating our way through the space, and just even from like a fan's perspective, like it shouldn't be a surprise.
No, it definitely shouldn't. And actually, George McCaskey was on, I think it's Bears All Access with Jeff Joniak yesterday.
Bears All Access.
Yeah, I was listening on the radio, and he was asked about how the changes have been happening just in the NFL game. and like how he feels about that. He's like, as you know, we're kind of traditional over here. I'm like, oh yeah, we know that. I mean, would I have liked the Bears to be on Hard Knocks? Selfishly, yes, but also that would affect kind of, I think, what we even do here, because they would take some time to, interview some of the players, whatever they're doing there. But I've always wanted that, to see the behind the scenes, even more behind the scenes look than what we get when we are at Hallis Hall. So it would have been cool, but it doesn't look like the Bears are going to be a part of that moving forward.
I think we actually have a few super chats that kind of
let's go
went right over my head here throughout it. So we have, what about trading down with Washington and adding their right tackle, Sam Kazmi?
I remember Sam. Did he go to Texas? Am I wrong on that? I remember doing homework on Sam, and maybe I'm completely off. Let's see if I was right there. Okay, he did go to Texas. Okay.
You and that memory, man.
I don't know why.
Always impresses.
It's I don't know why, but it's enticing because they have what pick are they at right now? We have it in the rundown, and of course now it's all gone. They are at 16. So 16, and you get a right tackle. To be completely honest, Nolan, I would have to go watch Sam Kasami to see how he's played before I can give you a direct answer. But if you're thinking he's someone you want to put in a draft or a trade compensation package because it's good for the Bears, then okay, Big Sam.
If you're just looking at PFF grades, and again, take them with a grain of salt, but it's just a quick way for us to at least look at how he compares to other players. Because he was drafted in 2021. He was similarly graded, but a little bit higher than Larry Borum last year too. They each gave up 5 sacks. He actually gave up 7 more pressures than Larry Borum, but of course he played on 70 more snaps. But yeah, so it's
okay.
I don't know. Just based off of that information, I'd rather have more picks. But I like the question. And again, those were PFF grades and some stats from them. But it would be worth a look to kind of keep those options open. Thank you for that comment. But another good point about him being young and on a rookie deal. That's another excellent
absolutely.
thing there too. For Monsi, what scenario would you rather have? Carter gets taken by the Lions and becomes a Hall of Famer, or Jordan Love actually becomes a great quarterback? Also, it's awesome to see how far the Bears bros have come. Well, thank you so much. That kind of like hidden at the end, but there, the little tag, good thing I saw it. But thank you. I know I really appreciate it. Jordan Love being a great QB. Okay, he said great. Yeah, I'd rather have Carter go to the Lions. Hall of Fame? Hall of Fame. Wait a minute. This is tough. Holy shit.
No. Look, Will, the Packers cannot have for 3 years in a row another quarterback that you have to worry about.
You're right.
Like if Jordan Love becomes a guy, oh my God, I think Bears fans would be angry at this, but also it's like, damn it. Like, can you not just have a quarterback for 1 year? Can that not be an option? I think it's that one. If Carter goes to be a Hall of Famer, he can't win games by himself. I know a Hall of Famer, they definitely make a huge impact, but usually you need to have that quarterback that can do things to really put you in a position to win. So I'm definitely taking Carter going to the Lions, becoming a Hall of Famer, than Jordan Love being, one of the great quarterbacks in this league.
I'm with you, like 99.9% with you. The only other reservation I have would be if he goes to the Lions and becomes that kind of player, it's Aaron Donald all over again for the Bears. But this time he's in the division. Yeah, it's twice a year. And so it's a damned if you do and damned if you don't situation, which makes it a really great question and thought process. Thank you. But Nick, as soon as you mentioned, like, do we really want the Packers to have another great QB? I'm like, no. The only thing that threw me off, though, is a Hall of Fame level play from Carter, which really worried me.
And it looks like I misspoke. I didn't mean 3 quarterbacks. 3 quarterbacks in a row, not 3 years. Obviously, Brett Favre didn't play 3 years ago, but you know what I meant. 3 quarterbacks in a row. That would not be fun.
All right. I think we have a couple more super chats to get to here. Would Jeffrey Simmons be the move to trade the number 9 pick? I don't know. It's not like striking a chord immediately, which I feel like you have to have that conviction to kind of like make a move. But
and that was floating around, Will, right? The Jeffrey Simmons thing. And I wasn't, I don't know, super for for it. I mean, and it was entertaining when it happened, when Bears fans were speculating. But yeah, it's not the biggest needle mover for me, in my opinion.
I mean, Pro Bowler, position of need, young. I mean, there are reasons why it makes not this specifically would make sense, but like finding a way to get a deal done could be enticing, but it doesn't, like you said, doesn't move my needle. That sounds interesting.
So it doesn't move the needle for me. But again, like you said, position need, productive player. 8.5 sacks 2021, 7.5 in 2022. Has been a Pro Bowler the last 2 seasons for Tennessee, and the Bears are taking every single Tennessee player known to man in Carolina. So the connections would just keep on growing between now and if they were to even entice somebody like Jeffrey Simmons here.
Thank you, Kevin, for the super chat and the question. Nick and I both appreciate it.
Yep.
Torin, hey, can you guys play the clip of Jason and Travis Kelce trying to name the current NFL coaches? I must have missed this on baby duty this week, huh? Do I need to watch this?
I just took a quick look at it. It said it's not safe for work. I watched the first few seconds. It was pretty funny. I could actually play that very briefly if you guys want.
Yeah, sure. He does get to Eberflus. I know I quote tweeted it, like what he said. It is pretty freaking hilarious. I say we do it. This is okay. Pretty funny.
Good stuff. Trust you. I'll trust you.
So we got you, Nicholas. You're saying it's okay to play then, right?
Yeah.
You
just
have
wanted to make sure.
Consent.
Just want to make sure.
Travis Kelce, try right now.
I can. I'm the worst with names, but I can tell you team.
Okay. All right. Starting on the left.
Chargers. Standing up.
Yep.
Sitting down.
Standing up.
Standing up. Chargers. Giants.
Yep.
San Fran. The fuck is that guy? I don't know. Steelers. Is that Steelers? Tampa? Is that Tampa?
It's Tampa. Yep.
Detroit.
No chance you're getting this one.
He's getting to Eberflus pretty close here.
Mm-hmm.
No. Jets. After Jets, nothing. I've never seen
nothing
in my fucking life.
What was that?
I've never 3 in a row. I have no idea.
So, actually, we can stop it there.
Those are offensive coordinator Shane Steichen for the Colts.
But so he said when he got to Eberflus, and for people who are just going to listen to this, it was Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce on their podcast with Travis trying to name the quarterbacks the head coaches in that picture that they do at the NFL owners meeting. It was going left to right. But when he got to Matt Eberflus, after Jets, nothing. I've never seen that man in my fucking life.
That's what I thought I heard.
Oh man, Travis Kelce, what a guy. The Bears will be playing the Kansas City Chiefs this year, and hopefully he'll know who Matt Eberflus, one of the 32 NFL head coaches in the league, are when he goes to play them in 2023.
I hope that's like bulletin board material, like the virtual bulletin board. They just kind of play that for him, and I think these players respect Flus and they would like to play for him. So I don't think he gives a hoot about that clip or not. But it would be funny for them to be like, no, we're gonna make him know who you are, coach, and like make sure like they make a statement. Like I think that would be cool. But we have a long time to go, and I'm sure we'll all forget about this clip by then. And here's the final super chat I saw come in from Steve B. He says, only a great show when it's Nick and Will. I think we always do great shows, even if I'm not here, but I appreciate it. But thank you. And like Steve says, hit the like button. I don't know where we're at on the likes, but I'm sure it's not enough.
Yeah, let's always, especially at the end of the show, we can close it out, get those likes up. It always helps us everything we're doing here at CHGO. Really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into a Thursday edition of our Chicago Audible CHGO Bears podcast. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate each and every one of you. I don't care if you're watching, if you're listening, what activity you're doing, at the same time. I'm just happy that you decided to share an hour with Nick and I to talk about Ryan Poles and what amazing possibilities are at his fingertips right now for this upcoming draft. I'm so excited, and again, we have a whole month to go pretty much, but just this conversation here today with Nick, like I'm juiced, I'm jacked, like I'm ready to rock and roll. But that's going to
Like
do it
Matt
for us here
Eberflus, like you're like
today.
Matt Eberflus in that picture.
I have a long way to go, and you haven't seen me in like a couple months, man. I have gained like 15 pounds, and it's all on my stomach. I turned 30, and this skinny guy is starting to get like a little bit of a belly, and I'm gonna have to work on that before we get to the summer. But we'll get there. It's probably just the dad bod actually is finally starting to set in.
Love it.
But anyway, maybe it's a little too personal here for the show right now. But I'm gonna call it, Nick. Thanks for all the work you put on behind the scenes here today, and a great conversation. I know we'll be back tomorrow to wrap things up. I'm excited to see how that all shakes out. By the way, anything you want to say, or just make sure they tune in?
You just have to tune in. Just tune in. We'll see what happens on Friday.
Sounds great. Yeah, you don't want to miss it. I'm excited for it myself, and I know I will be watching. But until the next time you see me, you know the drill. Bear down, Chicago.